This episode of the Crackcast is brought to you by our friends at bigdoor24.pl. It's a new free service dedicated to helping expats to rent or buy a property and earn cash back on successful mortgage applications. Bigdoor24.pl also has lots of tips and advice on renting and buying in Poland, so make sure you check them out and use the special promo code CRACKCAST to get a great cash back offer. And now, on with the show. So today we're talking with Aneta Maciejewska. She is an immigration advisor, and she helps people regulate their legal residency status in Poland, helps them get all the documents and permits and everything they need to work legally in Poland. It's what she does professionally with her website, Stay KRK, which we'll talk about a bit later. We'll put some links to that in the show notes. And she's here today to walk us through the process of what you need to live and work in Poland legally. Aneta, thanks for joining us on the Crackcast.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here today.
All right, let's start with the basics. In terms of, let's start with residency. What are the basics that anyone needs to gain legal residency in Poland? Mm-hmm.
Basically, we have to remember that first, in order to legalize your stay in Poland, you have to come to Poland legally, which means that you have to have some document that legalize your stay already. It can be either visa that was obtained in your home country or in some other Schengen country, or if you are from one of the countries that has visa-free regime, you can also come to Poland. For example, if you are a citizen of United States or Ukraine, or there are a lot of other countries that don't need visa, you can come to Poland. If you want to then prolong your stay and legalize it here in Poland, you need to apply for residence permit. And for that, you need to have a valid reason why you actually want to stay here for longer.
Okay, so you say valid reason. Let's say somebody comes here as a tourist. They say, oh, this place is great. I think I'm going to stay. Is that a valid reason?
Well, in theory, yes.
It is, yes?
As long as you can, as you have sufficient financial means to stay here, you can apply for residence permit. But you need to show that you have money to live. And this changes every year. For now, it's around 700 zlotys per month that you need to finance your stay in Poland. You need to have health insurance. But in general, from my experience, you need to also show some reason. You cannot say just, I want to stay here just because I like it. You need to show at least a reason that shows that you need to be here for more than 3 months.
So what is a good reason?
Well, the best is work. That's the main reason for sure. Then, for example...
No, wait, when you say work, you mean like I've been offered this job, or I'm going to stay because I want to look for a job?
Well, it depends. Everything depends. So if you want to look for a job, you can also apply, but you need to have at least potential employer that will give you papers that later with these papers you will be granted residence permit. You cannot just apply just for searching for a job. That's in theory. In practice, you can do it, but you need to have, in the meantime, another reason. I don't know if it's clear. For example, you can say that you want to give yourself time to find job, and for example, you sign up for Polish language course, and this is already a reason. So you need to have some reason. It cannot be searching for a job.
So this is the process for applying for temporary residence.
Yes, for everything I'm talking about now is about temporary residence.
And how long does that give you the right to stay in the country for?
Maximum 3 years.
3 years?
3 years, that's the maximum.
Interesting definition of temporary.
Yes, but it can be less. It really depends on the reason. If you're applying based on work, usually it's 3 years.
And during that time, can you leave and enter the country again as many times as you want to or need to?
That's a very good question. I get asked about that very often.
Because people want to go home or travel to other places, you know.
Yes. A lot of people think that during the process you cannot leave. Poland, but it's not necessarily true. It depends whether you have some other document that legalize your stay in this time. For example, if you have applied for the residence permit during the time that you still had your valid visa, you can leave because you still have visa that allows you to go out and come back. But if during the process your visa or your previous residency expires, then you have to stay and wait for the residence card.
Do you need to have a valid rental contract for some apartment or some place to stay?
Yes, of course. So among the documents that are needed, as I said before, you need to prove that you have enough financial means, that you have health insurance, and another very important one is, as you just said, a place to live in Krakow, because you always have to apply for residency in the city where you actually live. So you cannot apply, for example, in Warsaw because you heard that the process is shorter there. Uh-huh. But a lot of people want to do that, but then you have to show that you actually have a rental contract.
You do need this contract, right?
Yes, you do need contract.
Officially prove you live at this address or that address.
It can be either contract or it can be address registration. In Polish, it's called zameldowanie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know.
Yep, like official registration.
Yes, official registration that is done in the city hall.
So this process of getting temporary residency, is it complicated in terms of the documents required, and how much does it cost, and how long does it take to get a decision?
Mm-hmm. So that also depends on the reason. If you are applying based on work and you have all the documents in place, because application based on work, from my experience, it's like the most solid reason, and the process then is the fastest. Of course, if you have all the documents in place. So from my tips, it's very important that to submit all the documents on the first day, if it's possible, on the day of application. Because you have also possibility to submit some documents later during the process. But if you submit all the documents on the first day, your process shouldn't be longer than 3 or 4 months for the decision. And then a decision is a paper document. It's 1 page. It gives you the right to stay in Poland, but it doesn't give you the right to go out and to travel.
Sorry, so this gives you the right to stay in Poland. What do you get, or do you get anything after you file the papers, like when you're waiting for a decision? Do you have any right to stay in the country?
Yes, so I can tell you in steps how it looks like. First you need to submit the documents, and if you submit all the necessary...
sorry, and where's the office? Which office are we talking about for dealing with this whole thing?
We are talking about, in Polish it's called Urząd Wojewódzki. It's Voivodeship Office, Department of Foreigners Affairs. It's located near to Rondo Mogilskie.
This is my least favorite office in the entire city. Everyone knows it. I've been there. I hate it. I
think you are not the only one. So most of foreigners know where it's located. It's near roundabout, Rondo Mogilskie, and the street is called Przy Rondzie 6.
Right.
And yes, so you have to go there personally to submit your papers. But before, and it's very important because a lot of people might not know, it's quite recent change. You need to book your appointment. You cannot just come and say, "Hey, I want to submit my documents."
Really?
Yes, I saw a lot of people doing that, and then they just. They just leave disappointed because they spend few hours waiting in the queue for nothing.
Is this done online now or something, or what? Like making a reservation?
Yes, making reservation appointment you can do by email.
Oh.
You can have a look at the website of Urząd, Małopolski Urząd Wojewódzki, Voivodeship Office in Krakow, and there is email address.
So you file the papers in this horrible office, and for those 3 or 4 months while you're waiting for a decision, what kind of legal basis do you have for being in Poland during that time?
If you applied during your legal stay, which you must do, so you have to apply at least in the last day of your validity of your visa, or then and if you had all the papers, which means photos, because these are the documents that are absolutely necessary. 4 photos, payment.
How much?
It's 440 if you're applying based on work, 340 if you're applying based on, for example, studies or language class or family members, depends on the reason. And then you need to have also application form. And if you are applying based on work, you need 1 additional document from your employer. If you have these documents, you get the stamp, red stamp in the passport, which from this moment legalize your stay in Poland.
If your application is approved, it results in you getting a card, right?
Yes.
And is there an extra fee for picking up that card? Or I seem to remember in my case, I paid for the application, and then sometime later they said, okay, your card is ready. And then when I went there, I had to pay something else for the actual card. Is that still the case?
Yes, you are right. There is an additional fee of 50 zloty, 50 that you pay for the card. You can do it already with your application on the day of application, but you can also do it when you already have your decision issued. It's up to you. So these are the fees for governmental.
All the stuff we're talking about, the entire procedure, are there any differences between the regulations that apply to EU citizens and non-EU citizens, or is it the same process?
Of course, there are a lot of differences. So everything that we are talking now, it is about non-EU citizens. So this is very important to mention, that we are not talking about European Union citizens.
So how much easier is it for EU people?
Basically, EU people don't need to do, well, they should, but they don't absolutely have to do anything to work, at least to work and to stay here.
They can just be lazy and just sit around and drink beer and cashmeres and just do nothing, yeah?
Well, in terms of legalization, yes.
Wow.
But if they want to live here normally, then of course they should do things.
So it's automatic, basically. They have the right to this card automatically.
No. They don't get a card. They don't get a card. So the process for the card is only for non-EU. The process for EU citizens, it's called residence registration. And they should do it, EU citizens should do it if they are in Poland for more than 3 months. But I mean that if they don't do it, nothing happens. They will not be stopped by border guards.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? If they don't do it, what happens? Nothing.
They will not be deported from Poland and stuff like that.
So this is like one of those regulations that you can follow if you feel like it, but you don't have to? Is it like that?
By law, they should do it. Okay. So, of course, I strongly recommend doing it.
Of course.
And also they should make zameldowanie, so address registration, what we just talked about earlier on, in the city hall.
Curious about one thing. Have you ever, in your experience, have you ever seen these people at the immigration office kind of express some kind of skepticism or doubt or do anything to kind of verify the information they were given, like trying to find people who are fraudulently trying to get residency? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you why I'm asking, because when we're talking about this, it reminds me of something that I've gone through twice. Now, my wife is Polish, and I have a permanent residency card, and I've had to go through Dave, I don't know if you had to do this. They called both me and my wife in there. We were interviewed separately.
Yes.
And they ask us questions like, describe the layout of your apartment. What kind of toothpaste do you use? Is your bathroom, is the sink on the left or on the right as you walk in the bathroom? And then they compared our answers to see if we were really married and to see if we were perpetrating some kind of, again, immigration fraud. Dave, something like this for you too?
I'm an EU citizen, John. They wouldn't dare talk to me like that.
That's true. Yeah. He's got the EU card. But anyway, they didn't, it's not that they didn't believe me, I guess, but they took steps to verify my story.
Yes, so that's right. If somebody is non-EU citizen is applying for residence permit based on marriage, then the interview is an integral part of the process. It always take place because the officers, they need to see if you are actually married, just to, as you said, to verify if this is the real marriage, if somebody doesn't do it just to get the card. Mm-hmm. Because yes, it happens. I heard about people doing that, getting married for residency.
It does happen.
It does happen, yeah.
Okay. Let's say you get your residency card after waiting 3 or 4 months. You've got your card. Okay, now you live in Poland. Your stay is regulated legally. You can leave and re-enter the country as you want to. You have to go to work, right? At some point, most people have to go to work. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of transition to the process for working legally in Poland. Is the process, again, different for EU and non-EU people?
Yes, it's different. So as I said before, EU people, they don't need any work permit. So you can start, if you are a EU citizen, working in Poland immediately. Of course, since when you find the employer, you don't need to take any legal actions, take up any process for that. If you are from non-EU country, you need to first get work permit, which I haven't mentioned earlier, because we are talking about residency process. So right. Work permit process is separate, and then residence is separate. To work and stay in Poland legally, it's important to see the differences between work and stay, because there are different documents that are legalizing these two let's say, zones of our life. So first of all, if somebody wants to work legally, they need work permit, or they might also don't need that if they are in certain groups of people. So for example, there are some groups in Poland that don't need work permit at all.
What kind of people are in this group? Is this that blue thing I've heard of? There's a color attached to it, kind of like a special privileged class.
No, blue it's another thing, but I can also speak about that later.
All right, let's come back to blue then. Okay, who's in this special class of people who don't need work permits?
Of course, non-EU citizens, but then EU citizens don't need. From non-EU students, for example, if you are a student of stationary, which means like not public, but I don't know the word in English for stationary studies, daily studies.
Like a regular student, you attend classes not on the weekends, but
yes, exactly.
Let's just say regular students.
Regular students, or if you are a graduate of such studies, you also don't need work permit. If you are, as you know, married to Polish citizen and you have residence permit on this basis, also you don't need work permit.
Okay.
If you are in Poland for longer, at least 5 years, you can also apply for long-term residency, which also gives you open rights to labor market.
Can we just pause here for just a second on the subject of work permits? Now, I haven't been through this process in a long time because I never have a job. I just watch TV all day. But it used to be the situation. It was like this: you got a job first, or at least a formal offer. And then based on that offer, you went to the Polish embassy in the country you were from, and you got a work permit specifically based on that offer. So your work permit is tied to your employer.
Yes.
So if you change jobs, you get fired or whatever, suddenly your work permit is no longer valid. Is that still the case?
Yes, that's a very important note. Your work permit is always attached to your employer. And coming back to the basis, as I said in the very beginning, to come to Poland, you need to have visa. Or if you don't, because you are from US or other countries, some of them don't need. But let's say you need visa. First, your potential employer, let's imagine you are in your home country and your somebody wants to hire you. The employer needs to issue work permit for you, because work permit is not applied by foreigner. It's applied by the employer. They are issuing work permit for you. It is processed in Poland. Then they are sending it to you to your home country. And based on it, you can apply for visa. And then in Poland, to prolong your stay, you are applying for residence permit based on work. That's like more or less.
So who actually issues the work visa itself?
The embassy.
Of the country that you're from?
Yes.
So
Polish embassy in the country where you're from.
So let's say, for example, someone's from New Zealand. Do they physically have to be in New Zealand to get this work permit?
No. So there are different scenarios. I was just talking now about the scenario that you are in your country and you have a dream to come to Poland for work. So you are searching a job online, you get offer, and you want to relocate to Poland. So this is this one scenario. Another scenario could be that you are as a tourist, let's say in Poland, and you found employer here. Then they need to issue for you work permit, and you don't need to come back to your country. You can straight, based on this work permit, apply here, but not for visa anymore, but for residence permit.
All right. And what kind of money can people spend on fees to get the work permit they need? We said it was 300, 400 something for residency. What about the cost for a work permit?
Work permit, it's something that has to be arranged by employer. So it's very important to know that, because I noticed that sometimes companies kind of don't want to take care of it, and they are pushing this responsibility to the foreigners, which is not fair at all. And this is a responsibility of the company. It's not a big cost in regards of governmental fees. It's 100 zloty for work permit.
So it's not so much.
No, just the problem is the time and the effort.
Now you do this professionally. You help people through this process, help them get the documents they need, and help them get the residency permit, work permit, and whatnot. Do you think that a lot of people find the process just extremely complicated and hard to navigate by themselves?
I have different kind of clients that they are coming to me for my help for many reasons. Some of them find it complicated. Some of them just don't have time because, very often you have to physically go to the office to submit some clarifications or additional documents. So this is what I do on their behalf. but some of them don't speak Polish and they find it hard to communicate because, let's face the truth, not everybody in public institutions speak English. I think in general, a lot of people find it still complicated.
I have to jump in and ask, would you say there's a large percentage of maybe single males who struggle with this? Because I know in the expat community, it was nearly always, if you had a Polish girlfriend, you had your Maldunik, you knew all of this stuff, and it was all sorted. But if you were single, this was always a problem. I had 2 or 3 friends who used to kind of borrow my girlfriend, now wife at the time, to go down to the office with them.
That could be true, yes. Usually, no, I don't want to say that, but often
No
my clients can be single, yeah. Or they have wives, but not Polish, so they don't.
Are there
get
reasons
help.
for getting denied a work permit? I mean, if the documents are in order, will you get it, or there's still like some judgment call there?
Are you asking about work permit or?
Let's talk about both. I mean, what are the reasons people can get denied residency or denied work permit? So
work permit, as I said, is something that employer is applying. So it can be denied if there are some complications or some debts with the company. They are checking if the company is paying taxes, if it's paying this ZUS every month,
the social insurance payments,
and so on. So they are verifying that. If there are some debts and some problems, then the work permit can be denied. In terms of residence permit, I had some cases. It wasn't that I was a proxy on those cases, but people came to me who had negative decisions. And sometimes it was also because of the employer, because they are applying based on work for some company that was doing some illegal things or had these debts and they were not paid. But also sometimes because, I have to say that, but by their own fault. Because it's very important that during the process, the office can always ask you for additional documents. And if you don't submit these documents within some deadlines, you will get negative decisions.
So there are procedural reasons to deny you as well.
Yes, but you are always warned about that. You are getting letters. But I noticed there is a problem that some people might not, it's kind of easy thing, but some people may not understand that in Poland, most of the communication is still by post.
Yeah, so, old school.
Yes,
very old school.
Yeah. So you're getting a lot of letters from the office.
And not everybody is good about picking up letters on time, answering things on time.
All employment contracts in Poland have to be signed in person on paper as well.
And then every page initialed and stuff like that.
I wouldn't use the word old school, but I don't like to swear on air. So,
Aneta, this is, I know this was the case some time ago. You tell me if it's still like this today. It used to be the case that before a Polish business could hire a foreigner, they had to demonstrate to the Polish government that that position could not be filled by a Polish person. Therefore, they had to look outside of the country. Is that still the case?
Yes. What you are talking about is called labor market test. In Polish is test rynku pracy. This is a procedure that it's very old school, and I think it shouldn't be, to be honest. I hope it will not be the case soon, but it is still. And that's true, that the company must prove that for the this specific position, there are no Polish people who are unemployed, registered as unemployed. This is also important because this is something that is done by labor office. Registered as unemployed who have enough skills or experience and qualifications for this role. But this is also not always the case. There are some positions that are exempted from this test. For example, there is actually a long list of these positions, but just to say generally, there are positions that are on high demand. IT, also some physical like construction works and so on and so on. So it is not always the case. Specialists, in other words, yeah? Specialists, I would put them in 2 groups, either IT or like physical work, constructions and connected with us, renovations. You organize some meetings from time to time, kind of a workshop to help people with getting some information on the subjects that we're talking about. Tell everybody about these get-togethers that you do. Yes, together with my colleague Karolina, we are organizing meetings, information meetings, presentations with help of Ambasada Krakowian. It's a NGO in Krakow. We are doing it every 2 or 3 months. And the aim of these meetings is to talk actually about things that I'm talking now, share information and awareness about the process, because I think it's very important. And I think a lot of complications and problems about residence permit process in Poland are because people are just not aware and there is not enough information about it. So I think it is complicated, of course, and it is what is most important is very long, and I think that's the biggest problem now, that it's too long, and this is the biggest complaint. But still, I think that we should try to do at least the minimum what we can to make it easier and shorter.
And these meetings that you organize, they're free, yeah?
Yes, the meetings, well, they are based on donations, which are for the place, for Ambasada Krakowian, for the place that is hosting us. And they are usually on Thursday. We are always sharing information on the Facebook, our Facebook Stay KRK or Ambasada Krakowian.
Now, you just had a meeting at the end of February. Have you scheduled the next one yet or not yet?
Not yet. For now, I still don't know when the next meeting will take place, because now there are some important changes in immigration law that are still in the air, and we don't know what will be the results. So we are thinking to wait a little bit until the things are more clear with another meeting. But for sure it will take place this year, and I hope some of you can join.
The Facebook page is Stay KRK. The website is www.stay-krk.pl. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Thank you.
You can get all the information you need about residency permits and work permits and things like that. Any questions for Aneta? Aneta, thanks for stopping by and talking with us.
I have to say, Nancy, you've done a wonderful job there of explaining all of that.
She was so nervous before we started recording, and she did great, didn't she?
You've reached a demographic here, I believe. You know, I was thinking when you were talking about them meetings, if someone's organised to go along to a meeting, they're probably halfway home already. I think you're reaching out now to a demographic of expat that really needs this advice. And hopefully, and I'd like to say one thing, EU citizens, don't sleep on the Zmeldowania process. Get that sorted. A registered address is really important for a number of reasons. You will be asked for it anytime, you know, doctor's appointments, getting things delivered. It's just something you need to sort out.
And for you non-EU citizens, you know, again, don't take this seriously. You know, over the years, I've met too many people, and Dave and Josh know who I'm talking about here. We've met too many people who kind of just ignore it, and then one day at the airport, they get some really, really bad news, and they're taken to a special room for special interrogation, miss their flight, and things. You know, and it's the process. Okay, maybe it looks complicated, looks challenging, but you can do it, and people like Aneta can walk you through it. So please go the legal route, legalize your stay here, legalize your work, and do things the way you should.
Before we go, can I ask you a question, John? What was that thing back in the day when you guys were always going over the Ukrainian border to get your visa?
Yeah, I was.
Does that still exist?
A tourist visa, and every 90 days we had to cross the Schengen zone and come back in, and we literally. I made this trip with Josh one time.
I was always kind of jealous. These guys go on a road trip every 3 months.
It was kind of cool, first or second time, but yeah, we drive to the Ukrainian border, literally walk across, turn around, come right back in. Total waste of time just to keep the stamp
he's
current.
He's slagging the EU.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and thanks for Aneta for joining us.
Thank you so much, Aneta.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.